up, everybody? My name is Brant Shepard. I am a middle-class board gamer, and I want to talk to you today about my top 5 favorite party games. Let's do it. Hey, who doesn't love a party, am I right? And everybody likes to get together with friends and family. And if you're a board gamer, you want to take a game along to that. And so I'm going to tell you today about my top 5 favorite party games. Now here is how I'm defining a party game. A party game is one that can play at least 6 people or more, and that the rules are explained fairly simply. Like, you don't have to go into a big long rules teach with all kinds of complex things happening. And so that's basically how I'm defining party games. If you have some other explanation you'd like to give or description you'd like to give, go ahead and leave that in the comments. But let's get started with number 5. Number 5 is probably the one that's going to need the most explanation if you're teaching it to a new group, and that's Tarra. Now, everybody really enjoys trivia type games. Well, maybe not everybody, because they kind of make some people feel like they don't know as much as others, and some people really feel good about themselves because they can answer every single trivia question that's asked of them. Well, Tarra's great because it's a trivia game where you kind of have to know close to it, or you kind of have to know the person who knows. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a great big map on the board, and there's going to be a card that's going to tell something about maybe like a certain kind of animal or a certain kind of monument or something of that nature. And on the map, you're going to put cubes down to where maybe you think that animal might live or where that monument might be and those kinds of things. And there's also these kind of lines at the bottom that are going to either stand for, how many feet long the animal might be, or how long its life expectancy is, or, when it comes to maybe a monument, maybe how tall the monument is, and those kinds of things. So those are kind of used in a few different ways. And so you're going to put a cube down, and what's going to happen is for anybody that gets the guess exactly right, they get a certain number of points. If you're within one of, one side or the other of the guess, if you're kind of adjacent to the guess, then you're going to get a few points. And then if you're completely wrong, your cube goes away, and maybe you can get it back later. And so you play through a few rounds of this, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. Again, and you can play this on teams. Typically what we do with my family is we like to split into teams of 2 and then kind of split up that way. And it's just a good time. You're kind of discussing, and everything's pretty neat to learn. It's got some pretty cool facts in there too. So again, that's Tarra. It's designed by Freedom and Freeze, and that's my number 5 party game. All right, number 4 is a little bit like number 5. This is called Wits and Wagers. Again, these are going to be questions that nobody has a hope of knowing. And so it's going to be like, how many gold medals did America win in the 1996 Olympics? Now, if you watched all of the Olympics that year, maybe you remember, but there's non-televised events that get counted in there too. So there's really no way for anybody to really know that information. But what you can do is you can write down your guess, and everybody's going to write down a guess. Then you're going to put all of the guesses in an order, and then you're going to kind of wager on which guess you think is the closest. Whoever gets the closest without going over are going to get, again, some points. Okay, so again, it's kind of similar to Tarra, a lot quicker to explain, and it's one that a lot of people really enjoy. That's Wits and Wagers. All right, we're on to number 3 now. And number 3 is a game where you're drawing. Now, don't get worried if you're not very good at drawing, because this is telestrations. What's going to happen here is that each person's going to have a pad, and they're going to start out with a word. They're going to draw whatever that word is. Then everybody's going to pass their pad. The next person isn't going to be able to know what word was drawn. They just get to look at the drawing, and then on the next page they write down their guess as to what that drawing might be. The next person is going to look at the word that was guessed. They can't see the previous drawing, and then they're going to try to draw that word. And so what happens is that by the time a pad makes it around, it's sometimes pretty cool to see how the word got carried around and everybody was right about the word. Like, the next person that guessed off the previous drawing had the exact word, and then the next drawing was pretty accurate. But honestly, what's really funny is whenever something like the man landing on the moon turns into a cheese-eating mouse, something like that. Like, it's just really, really funny what can happen with this game. A lot of people really don't even play this with the points. I know we never do. We just like to kind of play it and then look at everybody's books and how everything changed or didn't, and that's really the most fun for us. So again, whether you're good at drawing or not, this one's a fantastically good time, and that is telestrations. Number 2 is a party game that I just played for the first time here recently with a group of friends and then with some family, and it went over great both times, and that's Deception Murder in Hong Kong. Now, this is what's known as a hidden role or hidden traitor game where one person, you might have heard of a game called Werewolf, and one person is the murderer, and then one person is going to be kind of a clue giver, and they know who the murderer is, and they're trying to give clues to say who the murderer is and how they did it, and then everybody else around the table is trying to figure out how. Now, the clue giver can't speak. They can only, they've got clue tiles in front of them, and they can only put down markers on the different clues to try to point people towards who that murderer is. The thing is that everybody has 4 murder weapons in front of them and 4 pieces of evidence left behind, and sometimes the clues are kind of vague and could point to 2 or 3 different people being the murderers. So everybody kind of has to discuss things. Now, here's why I like this better than some other hidden role games and why I've found success with it the past couple of days. It's not a game where you kind of have to make things up whole cloth. Everybody has those cards out in front of them. So there's automatically some discussion that's going to start happening there. You don't really have to lie in this game, which is one of the things that my wife doesn't really enjoy about these. And when we first started talking about it, she wasn't really excited to play. But once we got going and she realized that you don't really have to lie, you just have to point out how somebody else's cards could make them the murderer if you are the murderer, or if you're not the murderer and you're just an investigator, you're just trying to figure out who did it. And you're trying to look at those clues and look at their cards and figure out who did it. And so this is a really great game. Again, it's really fun. It plays up to 12 people, so you can get a whole lot of people playing this. And I can imagine that the more people you have sitting around the table, the more fun it gets to be. I've played it with 6 both times. I'd love to try it out with 8, 9, 10, even 12, just to see how many different people could possibly get accused as we're going around the table talking about all the different clues. So again, that's Deception Murder in Hong Kong. That's my number 2. All right, my number 1 all-time favorite party game is Baler Dash. Baler Dash is absolutely hilarious. What's going to happen is the active player is going to get a card, and they're either going to give the word off of that card, which nobody could possibly know the definition for, or some sort of obscure law, or maybe some kind of an acronym, or an actor or actress or famous person that nobody really knows why they're famous, so they're really not a famous person, but they're famous somewhere for some reason, or a movie that nobody's ever heard of. And then what's going to happen is everybody's going to write down a definition for that word, or come up with a definition for that word, or a synopsis to that movie, or whatever. And then the active player is going to write down the actual definition or the actual reason that that person's famous, or whatever it is, and then gather everything up and then read them off. And then everybody's going to vote on which of those they think is the actual real one. And so what's really super fun about this game is when you can write a definition or a movie synopsis, or give some words to those acronym letters that convinces people that, oh, that could be the right one. That sounds about right. And so this has been a lot of fun. My breakout moment for this game was whenever I played it with my family, and my family really caught on to the idea of the game being just to give a plausible explanation. That you're trying to just write something that sounds like that could be the definition of that word. It's so great. It's so much fun, especially if you're playing with some creative people. And it's really fun if you're playing with your family to see how creative they can be. Makes you really proud of them. And I was really proud of my family whenever we played this one, and they came up with some fantastic definitions on this one and some great movie synopses. We just spent the whole time laughing and having a good time. This is another one where you don't really keep score so much. I mean, maybe you kind of do for those that care about score, but it's really mostly about just being creative, writing down some really great and funny things, and just having a good time with your family. And that's my number one game, Baler Dash. All right, there it is. Let's get the party started, right? Hey, you're going to be hanging out with your friends and family a lot over the holiday season. Who wants to sit around and look at their phones all the time? Nobody. Take one of these games with you, put it out and let everybody know, hey, this isn't anything that I'm going to have to teach you 20 or 30 minutes rules to. I'm going to be able to tell you the rules like that. I can explain the rules to you right now while we're all sitting on the couch. Some of these games we can play while we're sitting on the couch. You don't even have to sit around a table. So take these games with you. Have a great time laughing and enjoying the holiday season with your family. And until next time, my name is Brent Shepard. I'm a middle-class board gamer. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those kinds of things. Let people know that what we're out here doing, and we'll see you later.